Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Nat Walsh. Today we are going to have another little, just a fun little card that you might want to make for the little man in your life. So we're going to again use this W+9, that is all. And I'm not really too sure what the sentiment was going to be at this point, but I changed my mind. This is a Tim Holtz, I think it's called Distress Bricks. It's actually really, really old, but I like it because A, it's distressed and it just has a really cool background. It's just not the standard sort of brick wall. So we've got some grey cardstock and some green cardstock. And this stamp is the only one that we're going to actually use. In the end, because I was thinking of like You Are Amazing, all that sort of stuff, but I just thought, I miss your hugs. I thought the amazing or the loved or those sort of ones were just going to be a bit too big. So we're going to go for this miss your hugs. And again, this is a card that I made for a custom order. My original card that I made many, many years ago for one of my sons actually had a number on it. So this one's going to be a little bit darker than my original because I had a 9, I think it was one of the boys' 9th birthday. So we had the 9 in the same green. So that would be really, really cool. But these people didn't really want numbers. They didn't want wish you were here or anything like that. So we're just going to go miss your hugs, which is what is nicer than a little one's hugs, like a 9-year-old, 6, 9, 7, all that sort of little age. Their hugs are just like, they're freaking awesome. But anyway, so this is Miss Your Hugs. Now I have sort of dried it off screen to make sure that it was nice and dry, and we run it through, and I just ran that through my cutter bug. So it's just got a lot of texture on it, and it's just really fun background. We're going to trim this down slightly, and it's going to be sitting at 14.1 by 9.7. This I'm just freehand drawing, and most of this you won't really be able to see, but I'm just freehand drawing this hole basically. Some of it is, sorry about that, some of it is just going with the actual bricks on the wall and going into the grouting sort of area, but some of it I just freehanded. And once I roughly mark out what I want, the horizontal lines are all with the grout. It's just some of the vertical lines are going to be a little bit altered, and I'm trying to make them, just not straight. If you punch a hole in a brick wall, which is I've never done, but if you punch a hole, you have that scattered sort of layers where the mortar has come apart and taken out a whole brick. And once I've done it, I'm actually we're going to alter this is where I'm going to alter some of the hole in the center, because I've realized it's just too narrow for our little creeper. So we're going to rub out those ones. I'm going to start cutting this on camera, and then I'm going to cut it off. But I've just used the knife, exactly what I'm doing here, except I'm going to ditch the ruler. And if you go nice and slowly, and I find not putting too much weight on it, you can generally get it pretty much where you want it. And it's not really going to matter too much. I start to try and curve it around, but we're going to go back through with a pair of scissors because it's just too hard, and it sort of mushes up the cardstock a little bit. So I started rounding it off at one point, and then I decided, oh no, maybe I'll keep it, and then it's not any good. I do have to apologize for the next bit because I'm going to put some grey cardstock and apparently I didn't press play or record on my camera. But what I'm going to do is thinking about where the shadows are. So I tried to, underneath the top brick, I've tried to have a bit of a shadow, and also basically underneath the bricks to a point. And on the right hand side, the left hand side of the brick might have a little bit of a shadow, but you're not going to see it too much. Hopefully you will be able to see it in the photos over on the blog, and all the measurements and everything of course will be over there. So if you want to have a look at any of that sort of thing, I do cut this out, but apparently I didn't cut it out as much as early as I thought I was going to. Anyway, I had issues with this because when I downloaded it, I got to putting it all together and I'm like, right, cool. And then I'm like, I've lost half of the card. So I had to, thankfully enough, I still had it on my camera, and so I had to re-download it and all that sort of stuff. But I digress. So clearly I don't do too much with, you're going to watch me mostly cut this thing out. So we're going to use the grey cardstock to just have that little bit of a shadow, because a wall is going to just project a bit of a shadow. Now, I'm not terribly amazing about where that would be. For some reason my brain just wouldn't really think about that. Here we go, there we go, I've cut it all out. So there's a hole in a brick wall. It's so cool. What I'm also going to do is use a pencil with the grey cardstock and map out some of my border. It doesn't really need to be terribly straight or anything. It just lends itself to that rustic, that you've already got the distressed bricks. You've got a hole in the wall, so this is where I try and start to think about rounding the corners, but decide to change my mind. But we will be back to that very shortly. If you have any little stringy bits, trim that all off. So I'm just using a bit of scraps here. I was lucky enough to have a decent size, because when I first pulled it out I thought I'm not going to have enough, but I do. And then we'll trim it off on the sides later on, sort of thing. So this is where you're not going to see me. I don't really know what happened, but it's not there. So there you can roughly see our outline. And once I put that down, I've cut into it because you're not really going to see it because it's all on the back. I'm just going to go around the edges. Rather than trying to punch a hole in the wall, in the middle of it sort of thing, I just went, no, stuff it. Here we go. So we've rounded off our corners. And as I said, I've tried to leave where I thought there might be a little bit of a shadow. I've used the pencil to draw a line sort of a little bit below where my brick wall is going to finish. So all I need to do is line that up a little bit. I think I do come back through. See, it's really hard because I've got grey matte. I do go back through a little bit and just trim off. Once I glue it all down, just trim off some on the left hand side just to make sure that you couldn't really see some shadow where I didn't really want the shadow to be. We're just going to use a bit of glue here to stick it down. So really the card is pretty simple in its design. The hardest thing is just working out your shadow for your brick wall and roughly where you put the brick wall, but you do it in pencil and play with it until you're happy. I mean, it's nothing that has to be perfect, right? So I'm hoping there you can see a little bit. You can see down the bottom right where my fingers, my left hand is there, you can see it's a little bit, you can see a little bit of shadow. So we're just going to trim those off with a bit of scissors. And that is going to be our brick wall. At this point, I was pretty stoked. Just saying. Just going to try and smooth down some of the edges just a little bit. It's just very on the very end where I've cut it. Do a little bit of tidy up and let the glue sit there for a while. That's going to be pretty ouch. I think it's pretty cool. So we trim off some of the sides, our excess on the sides, and I haven't really put glue right to the edge, so it's very, very easy to trim that off. We're going to use a lot of foam, mostly because I had little bits and pieces lying around, so I went, we'll just use that, or shove that bit here, shove that bit there, and now you can start to see a bit of our shadow. And we're going to raise that up on foam as well, as I said. So we're going to have a bit of depth with that too. Our little creeper dude, I had to Google what it was. So again, well, not Google, but Google the name of what the little dude was, sort of thing. And, you know, I have 3 boys, and yes, they went through Minecraft and did all that sort of stuff, but I have no idea anymore. So one piece is going to be 2.5 centimeters by 2.5. The other little piece, now I have boxed this up and sent it off to the person, but I think it was about 1.9 centimeters wide. I just wanted it, honestly, it might be like, just play it by ear. It might be like 2.2 sort of thing. I really can't remember, but I just wanted it to be that little bit narrower than his head. And I'm going to leave that extra long piece because that's just going to help me sort of glue it down on the inside. And it's just scraps, so it doesn't matter. That's how our little man's going to look. Pretty freaking cool. Okay, so we've got some pumice stone. I'm going to start with this, but we're going to put this on the fence on the wall. I do start with it on the creeper face, but of course it's scented a little bit white. So we're going to come back through with some black soot and make it a little bit darker on the edges. And I'm pretty much, as you see, I started off with my pumice stone and I didn't even ink it up. Pumice stone, I think it's called. But anyway, sorry, the light is changing now. This is later in the afternoon. So I start putting this down and then go, it just makes him a bit white rather than the darker image. I don't know what I was thinking, but clearly I was not thinking. So we've got some black soot. And I'm going to put a little bit of that onto his body. And I'm going to take it down a little bit lower just to give it some of that shadow from his head. Now, because I don't have, I think I said before, because I don't have the actual 9 in the darker color, it does make the card a little bit darker. But for a young kid, I think he's just going to be like the whole fact that he's got a Minecraft little card. Now, this was the fun bit. Now, I freehand all this. I googled the image of a creeper and freehand all the little face. So I can't really describe to you what it looks like, but I'm not stressing too much. I just freehand it, and then we're going to just trim it off. So down the bottom I tried to make sure that it was straight, but honestly that was pretty much it. And I managed to get it all in first time around for the sizing, actually. I don't really know how, but I just started off with something. I think my little strip was about 2.5 centimeters wide, so it wasn't that hard to sort of figure out where everything was going to go. Now we're going to trim that out. Oh, there you can see it. So I did do a couple of lines for his little eyes to make sure they were nice and straight. Yeah, so the eyeballs were the only really thing that I measured to try and make sure. I thought for sure that I'm going to have one bigger than the other. So there's my little mouth. I don't know what a creeper that thing on a creeper is. I think I'm just finding my glue here. So we've got some multi-matte medium that we're going to use to glue this down. And we're just going to use our tweezers. If you don't have a pair of these tweezers, you need a pair of these tweezers. You actually have to squeeze the tweezers to release things. So it just helps your hands so much. Just not to actually have to squeeze it and hold it. Now a little bit of glue oozed out, which is not too much of a problem because multi-matte medium is really good. The only problem is like just being a little bit fiddly with these little eyeballs. But really the only thing after this that we've got to do is to mount him up. So he's pretty much done now. Do his other little eye. And then we have a creeper face. I think the kids still play Minecraft. I'm pretty sure they do. Not so much mine, they've moved on, but anyway. So we've got some foam mount. I'm going to change these and get the bigger foam mount. And I'm going to put a layer down and then I'm going to add his body and then put the next lot of foam. I wasn't too worried if I'm going to use different foam between the brick wall and the little creeper, but I wasn't too worried if there was going to be a bit of a height difference because he's looking through a hole in the wall, so if he's a little bit back or a little bit forward, it's not going to worry too much. We're just going to try and get him relatively centered, but trying to keep as much as shading as possible, because really we probably should have gone down a little bit lower. I'm trying to do this in between children yelling or talking loudly or all that sort of fun stuff, because it's Boxing Day and I need to get this done. Put some foam on his body. Anyway, I need to remember not to do these things late. So because our little strip is so long, we honestly could put him anywhere we see fit. Wherever you'd like. A little bit of glue down. My little guy's going to be pretty low to the ground. But still pretty cool. Trim off a little bit of green. And then we're just going to plaster this with some foam. So I have doubled up this foam. I've cut a strip off this little bit. And then as I said, I had other smaller pieces here, there and everywhere. So I did just put some down. I do need to trim it off a little bit just so I can put it down the sides. I probably could have gone vertical on that, but you do have those little bits that it's quite good to try and get done. But anyway, doesn't matter. So yeah, I hope everyone had a really good Christmas wherever you are in the world, and that Corona did not totally screw it up. I know a cousin of mine in England who is all alone. He unfortunately had to have a nice quiet Christmas, but you make do with what you make do, don't you, really? It is what it is at this day and age. But I do hope everyone had a nice Chrissy. And these are all our little bits and pieces that I'm just going to use up and get rid of, frankly. There we go. I'm going to take off some of our backings for our foam, and then I'll put it onto the card base, and then we'll remove the rest of the backings just so we can have it roughly in place and we can see where we're going to put all this. This is our card base, obviously. See, it's a little bit darker because it has a bit more shading on our little creeper, and we don't have lifting it up with a 9 or a number or something. So it's pretty much our card base. Our card done today. So all the information will be over on my blog. I would be honored if you would like and subscribe to this video. If you haven't already subscribed, that would be awesome if you can do that. Hit the little bell and you will get notified of whenever I upload a video. We're slowly getting back into I am slowly getting back into a bit of the pattern after the busy lead up to Christmas. And here we go. That's it. Thank you very much for stopping by. I hope you like this card. I hope you have a safe Christmas, well, safe New Year's. Take care. Bye.